Hello. Thank you for tuning into this episode of The Doc is In. Again, I guess this is kind of in honor of Social Work Month, but mainly it's a response to a viewer question. I got this question in my Instagram inbox asking if I could talk a little bit about what it's like working with psychotic patients. So, one, I'm very happy to do that. Um, I have a background with inpatient psych as well as working with psych patients who are psychotic due to substance use. So, I've had like both, like, hey, they're just schizophrenic. And I've also had, hey, they're schizophrenic or something because they took some bad drugs. So it's kind of the same and a little bit different at the same time. So first off, let me say this. I feel like the the media gives this image of people with mental illness as though they're all dangerous, and honestly, sometimes they're not. But here's what I also will say: if you're the kind of person who's really easily startled by working with patients who have mental illness, or people who can be unpredictable, if you're easily startled, this is not the job for you. I am a pretty relaxed person all the time. This is my actual normal speaking voice, and it's usually even softer. If I hadn't got this extra microphone, you probably couldn't hear me that well. But I've always been a fairly soft spoken person. I'm not the person to just flip out and act, out of character or anything like that. So working with psychosis for me was actually really a good fit. Um, Oftentimes people have asked me like, well, what do I do when they start acting this way, or what should I say? Honestly, one of the best things you can do for someone who is in a psychotic episode, if their behavior is really erratic, give them space. Give them space and try and get to an open area. The reason for that is not necessarily the thought that they're going to attack you, but because we don't know what's going on in this altered thinking pattern, get to a space where you can move freely, but also get to a space that is quiet. Whenever you're dealing with mental illness or any type of mental, usually any type of mental issues, too much stimulation is not a good thing. If there's lights everywhere, noise everywhere, things moving all about, that's only making it worse. You want to get to a quiet, kind of tranquil surrounding. So if that's out maybe in your backyard, or if that's just an open space, maybe a living room. But again, you want to give yourself space that to move around. The next thing is going to be make sure that you're not yelling. A lot of people, when they get nervous, when they get upset, they start yelling. And the thing about it, and the thing to remember is, this person is not doing this of their own volition. They're doing this because of a mental illness. So something is altering their thinking pattern. All you can do is be calm, speak calmly to them, ask them if there's something that might help. Because I think everyone goes into this mode of, oh my gosh, stop talking crazy. This is not the situation. This is not the situation. But remember, in psychosis, it's taken over your mind. Psychosis has hijacked their brain, and the fact of the matter is, whatever they're telling you they see or that they hear, that is their reality in that moment. So I've had patients that tell me they see everything from demons to colors. They're hearing voices of dead relatives. They're hearing voices of aliens that they can't identify. They smell things. Any number of things can be happening. Aliens abducted me. I've had a 70-year-old woman tell me she was pregnant. FYI, she was not. But all of these things are their reality in that moment. So you need to be present in their reality with them. Yeah, it's not going to make sense to you, but just go with them if it keeps them calm. So you want to ask maybe, well, what can I do to help? I've had a patient tell me that he saw bugs on the floor, and he was trying to stomp them and kill them. I joined right in. He saw them, then I saw them too, and I started stomping on stuff that I couldn't see. But because of that, it builds rapport, it builds trust, and it keeps them calm because they're not feeling attacked. A lot of times when you're trying to tell them that they're not seeing what they're seeing, they're not hearing what they're hearing, that only makes them feel attacked. And now they're going to be angry with you. And see, that leads to a lot of those physical altercations, but it doesn't have to be that way. You just want to make sure that you're doing your best to keep them calm. If they're having difficulty, like if they're like, I can't understand something, I can't, you know, if they can't concentrate, because a lot of times if people have audio hallucinations or visual hallucinations, it's very hard for them to concentrate. Give them one thing at a time. Give literally one thing at a time. If they have choices in something, give them two choices at most. Keep your statements very short. How are you? How can I help? Are you okay? You know, if they tell you they hear voices, what are the voices saying to you? You know, because you want to find out what space they're in. So if they're telling you they're hearing voices, my first question is always going to be, what are they telling you? Because if they come back and say they're telling me to kill myself, that lets you know we got to keep you safe. If they're telling you you got to hurt somebody else, again, we got to keep ourselves safe. Sometimes the voices may actually be encouraging, believe it or not. Some people say they hear encouraging things in their voices. So it's definitely something to be mindful of. I mean, I've sat with psychotic patients in one-on-ones, and I've had them say, you know, I'm looking at them and I can tell that they're preoccupied. I can tell that they're responding to internal stimuli. So I'm going to ask them a question like, are you hearing something right now? Do you see something? I've had patients tell me they see colors behind me. I've had a patient tell me that there's someone behind me. I've had all kinds of things be said. Colors, people. I'm hearing a voice telling me I can trust you. I'm hearing a voice saying that I'm in danger. Whenever you hear these things, you just have to be in that moment with them, be present, and continue on. Stay calm though. If you're freaking out, if they tell me they see colors behind me and I'm like, oh my God, what color is it? Ah! Well, now I'm riling them up and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to calmly ask them, what does the color mean? What color do you see? The person who's behind me, what do they look like? Because a lot of times these are mental manifestations of things that have happened to them. So in understanding what they're seeing, what they're experiencing, you can oftentimes extrapolate how we got here. But you have to be present and you have to sit with it and understand it. Now, if you're not a trained professional, and let's say this is a family member or something like that, look, don't be afraid to call 911 for help and let them know, like, hey, my loved one is experiencing some type of hallucination. They're seeing things or hearing things. Because also, if this has never happened before, yeah, schizophrenia and things like that are usually genetic, and they can show up late teens, early 20s for the first time. But if that's not the case, it could be that they, you know, maybe there was some substance that they took and it's reacting with them. For elderly people especially, but also anyone who has a long-standing UTI, but especially elderly people, yeah, they can easily go into psychosis. Like UTI and a long-term UTI can cause psychosis. So those are all things to kind of be mindful of. If you know, if they're like I said, if they're having delusions, if they're having hallucinations, accept it. This is what they're experiencing. This is their reality. Again, if they're open to talking about it, try and talk to them. Try and ask them questions like, why would this person be here? Why do you see these colors? Why do you think that might be? Because this is giving them an opportunity to open up to you. If they're opening up to you and you got them talking, they're calm. That's the best thing to do. Keep them calm. And I feel like that's the best thing you can do in any situation is keep the person calm. If you have someone in your family who is in and out of psychosis, definitely if they are medicated, make sure that they're taking their meds the way they're supposed to. Nowadays, they make a lot of long-lasting injectables that can last anywhere from 1 to 3 months. Don't be afraid to get someone the help they need. If they need inpatient help, get them inpatient help. If you feel like you're in danger, And again, this is a real possibility. Not always, but it can be a real possibility. If you feel like you're in danger, call 911. And when you call the operator, explain exactly what's going on. I need assistance. My friend, my brother, my sister, my mom, they're dealing with something and I don't know what it is. This is what they're saying. This is what they're doing. If you do that, it oftentimes lets them know to send out the appropriate response. Because oftentimes, if you let them know, hey, I think this is a mental health thing, they'll send out like a mobile assessment team or something like that where they can assess them on site and get them to mental health care. If you don't say that and you just call 911, a lot of times the police can come out. And if you have a police officer that's not trained to know what psychosis looks like and the actions and reactions, they may take unnecessary force, as we've seen in a lot of videos that have come out. And this is no disrespect to police officers because again, I want to emphasize they're not trained to be mental health specialists. And that's why it's important to make sure that we're denoting that in the phone call. This is a mental health issue. I need like a mobile assessment team, or I need officers who are trained to deal with this. Because what you don't want to have happen is you're calling for help and now your loved one gets hurt because you call the police, you know? Also, make sure that you kind of keep in your memory what's going on, if that makes sense. If you do have a loved one that is going to end up being taken to, like, let's say a facility or something, make sure that like you're able to kind of tell the facility what's going on. Oftentimes with inpatient, and this happens more so with like vagrant citizens who get brought in because maybe they're doing something that's either suicidal, homicidal, you name it, laying on railroad tracks or something like that. With a lot of these citizens, there's no family contact. We're trying to figure out who to call to verify their safety. There's no one who's there. So if you can be there for someone just to make sure that they know, it's worth it. It's definitely worth it. The biggest thing that I'll say about working with patients in psychosis is it requires a lot of patience. It requires patience, but I think that goes for working with anybody. Patience is always going to be key, and the biggest thing is remembering and respecting the fact that they're a person who's sick and who's dealing with a real mental illness that is affecting their day-to-day life. I look at mental illness like I look at any chronic illness. Yeah, sometimes you can manage the symptoms, but every now and again, they get out of control. You may take your insulin regularly, but your blood sugar still rockets sky high, or you may take your blood pressure medication, but you wake up one morning and you're feeling bad, and lo and behold, your blood pressure's through the roof. You may be doing all that you know to do to manage, but at the same time, it may still get out of control. The best thing that we can do as family and friends is support them. Make sure that they're feeling heard. Make sure that we're practicing coping skills with them. You know, things like I said, things like yelling at them or making them feel ashamed of what they're dealing with isn't helpful. Again, remember, a little bit of compassion goes a long way. They are ill, and there's something there that needs to be addressed. So, with that being said, thanks for tuning into this episode of The Doc Is In. Y'all have an awesome weekend. Love yourselves. Love somebody else. We'll all be better for it.